Hello and welcome to DSWi's presentation on Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central. This presentation is in an overview format where we'll cover some of the high-level features and functionality within Business Central. After you've watched this recording, I invite you to contact us for a Q&A session or for a more detailed requirements gathering and discovery session around your business's needs. And we could also tailor a presentation of Business Central to some of those top needs that you have as a business. My name is AJ Ansari. I'm a Microsoft MVP for business applications, more specifically for Business Central, and I've been working with Business Central and its predecessor products for the last 13 years. Before I start showing you the product functionality in a live demonstration, I'd like to set the stage, if you will, for what Business Central is. Some of you may have already had conversations with Microsoft or with somebody at DSWi around Business Central, and for some of you this may be the first time you're being exposed to this. Business Central is an ERP system, an enterprise resource planning system that combines the best of a strong accounting application with an application that can handle the various facets of your business. So upon a strong financial management foundation, we have the ability to support and improve the efficiency of the different areas of your business like sales, field service management, purchasing, manufacturing and assembly, a robust project accounting and a jobs management module. And then a very important aspect of any good system is the ability to generate reports and analytics, and Business Central is really strong in that department as well. So whether you are a services business or whether you are a manufacturer, a distributor, or a business that generally deals in inventoried products, Business Central can help you increase your efficiency and your profitability. Another important thing to highlight about Business Central is it is a native cloud solution, a SaaS solution, software as a service. And what we mean by that is I want you to kind of think of your Gmail account that you may use in your personal life, or hotmail.com. You never quite had to worry about installing anything there. You signed up for that service and you simply access it through your web browser. It's always there, it's in the cloud. And another key element of a subscription or a software as a service offering is that there's a subscription element to it. You don't have to buy it, much like your Netflix or your Hulu subscription. You subscribe to this every month. Now, there are some businesses that may have your offices in a location that internet connectivity is spotty, or perhaps you're in an industry where you're less comfortable putting your data in the cloud. Well, we understand that. It does happen from time to time, and Business Central can be configured for an on-premises deployment as well. And when you partner with DSWi and with Microsoft, you're really getting you're partnering with some really strong players. Microsoft, I think, needs no introduction. But just at a very high level, I thought I would share some very interesting statistics, and I'll point out a couple here that stand out the most. 4 out of 5 Fortune 500 companies use Office 365. Really many more in the small and medium businesses space. And you use your Word, your Excel, your Outlook applications on your computers. It's installed the same way you've had for all this time, but the difference is with Office 365 you can always be on the latest and greatest versions of that product. And for frontline workers, Office 365 can also be accessed directly from a web browser. Business Central uses and has deep integration with many Office 365 applications like Outlook, Excel, and Word. And it uses the same login, your company email and password, to access Business Central. There are over 160,000 businesses running on Business Central and its predecessor products today. And it's just, I think, another slide that I don't have here that we talk about in other presentations. Microsoft, if I recall, has over $11.5 billion in research and development investment every single year. I'd say that's more than a lot of its competitors' entire revenue for the year. Let's pivot back to Business Central. One of the most beautiful aspects of this offering is that it works wherever you are. Whether you're sitting at your breakfast table with your phone, or on your tablet, or on your laptop or desktop computer, you can access Business Central securely. You would use your web browser like Google Chrome, Firefox, Safari, Microsoft Edge, Internet Explorer, any of those really popular browsers that are out there, from a Windows computer, from a Mac OS computer, or a Linux computer. Or you can download the free app that is available for Android and iOS devices, for iPhones and iPads, Android tablets as well, or the Windows 10 app as well for tablets. If you have a Surface type of device or a 2-in-1 device that has a tablet mode, you can also access that in a tablet mode. And you'd get the same powerful capabilities across all of these different platforms. Obviously, the one that you'd probably want to use for the most powerful experience, the richest experience, would be your web browser on a desktop or a laptop computer. And like I said before, you would log in with your same Office 365 business credentials, and it uses a enterprise-grade secure connection. So all of your data is encrypted with an SSL certificate, the same level of encryption that you get when you're connecting to your bank using your web browser. Much like you've come to expect with your phone and your smartphone and your tablet, when you need to extend upon functionality or need new functionality, there's an app for that. Right? And so with Business Central, there's 700 or over 700 industry and business apps in Microsoft App Source. That is the app store for Business Central and a lot of other Microsoft offerings. Business Central is also fully capable of custom apps that you might want to build, or we as your partner, something you may want us to build for you. And those are called per-tenant extensions. And these apps sit alongside Business Central, and they can be deployed and uninstalled at your choice. In addition, Business Central also connects with data sources and any external applications, third-party external apps or some other database that you have. We do that with web services and APIs to, again, create a secure connection with those applications. Licensing, really simple to explain. It's like the back of a napkin. If you're a business that does not do manufacturing or service management, then predominantly all of the things that you're going to do are covered in the essentials level. So we have full users that are at the essentials type for $70 a named user a month. If you're a manufacturer or a service management company, then your full users are $100 a user a month, a named user a month. You don't mix and match those, so if you are a manufacturer and you have 10 users, then you would pay 100 times 10, so $1,000 a month. And if you are not a manufacturer and you have 10 users, you would pay $70 times 10, $700 a month. For users who are more along the lines of reading, who are more along the lines of time entry users, or folks who read and approve workflows, who want to just access data, run reports, access the employee self-service part of the system, or your C-level executives who are really not doing much in the way of data entry, but really just relying on that data, they can be team members. And team members can be mixed and matched with Essentials or with Premium. They're at just $8 a user a month. Now, there are no minimums and there are no maximums. So you can have as few as one or as many users as you need within Business Central. With that, let's go right into the product. Now, I'm using a Google Chrome browser, and I'm already logged into Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central. And over here, you can see that my experience has me in as a business manager who's responsible for some selling, some purchasing, overview of accounting capabilities, etc. So that's my role center. Business Central has many role centers, and depending on what you do primarily in your day-to-day activities, you could have that role center assigned to you. Now, a user can change it later, but predominantly you would have those role centers preset for the different users. So if you wanted a more accounting-specific experience or a more CRM-centric experience like Sales and Relationship Manager, you would select that, and now you would find that your role center refreshes to show you a very different look and feel. It's still data from the same company, but it focuses on what you would want to do on a day-to-day basis. If you pay close attention, you may have noticed that my top-level ribbon items, my shortcuts, or my bookmarks, and all of those have changed in line with the different parts that I have up here. For the purpose of today's demonstration, I'm going to go back into the Business Manager Role Center. I think that experience just plays well for what we're going to do today. While I'm here in my settings, I also want to point out that if your business has more than one company, if your corporation has more than one legal entity, you can manage all of those inside of Business Central in one environment with one login. Notice here I'm in the Cronus USA Incorporated company, but I could easily switch from that to any other company that I have access to in my environment. I also have the ability to change my time zone, my language, from among the many languages that are available here from Microsoft, and many more that are available through the AppSource App Store. So as I do this, I'm going to hit OK, and it's going to refresh and bring me back into Business Central as a business manager. I alluded to a few seconds ago the ribbon. And much like any other Office application that you've probably used before, Microsoft Office application that is, we have a ribbon concept here. So there is finance ribbon, a ribbon for finance items, cash management, sales, etc. And again, from role center to role center, this varies. And instead of having it be image centric, this is more text centric. And if you look at something and you want to access that, you simply click here. If you want your ribbon to always be expanded, you can pin that as well. What Microsoft has also done is given you the ability to create bookmarks that you can pin, or shortcuts that you can pin right here below the main ribbon. Customers, vendors, items, etc. Some things that I use a lot, so I have them pinned right over here. In addition, if I'm looking to pin something else, or if I want something, let's say I'm a professional services business and I want to see my full list of resources or my billable team members here on my home screen, so I can look at their rates, I can look at their utilization, and a whole lot more. Well, because I'm not seeing that right here, what I would do is I'll go to my search functionality and just type the word resource or resources. And here it's going to show all the pages and tasks that use the word resource across the system. It's also going to show some reports and analysis around reports, documentation, and also a quick list of apps on AppSource that may be related to what I'm searching for. Instead of just pulling up this list, I want to add this to my bookmark, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to click on the bookmark link, and now it will start showing here. So in the future, whenever I need resources, all I have to do is click, and now I'm looking at my resources, my unit cost for them, and so much more that I might be interested in. And to navigate back to my home screen, I just click on the company name from wherever I am. Let's stay on a couple of other quick navigation features around my home screen. Now, as I'm looking through this, if I want a quick look of every report that's available, or every page and type of screen and task, I could also look at a full site map or a departments menu, and I'd be able to explore all of that by clicking here. And I could also just say explore all beyond just what my Business Manager Role Center shows. And now I'd be able to see all the different things that go on. And so if I wanted to see some purchasing related information, I could come over here, see all the different menu items related to purchase and some reports related to purchase, etc., and then navigate back to and come back to my home screen as I need to. So this sitemap is a good way to find some things that you may not know are there. Perhaps you don't know what to search for. The good thing is it does respect security and permissions, and there is a very comprehensive security management capability within Business Central. So if there's something, a report or a page that you're not supposed to have access to, you wouldn't see that, or you wouldn't be able to click and get to that screen. Coming down a little bit more, you notice I have a headlines area, and this is one of the places where Business Central's artificial intelligence capabilities kick in. And you can see it goes through your transactions and your activity and highlights some of the more standout types of events that happen in your company. You have your key actions over here as well, and your key actions like create a new sales quote, create a new purchase order, or create a new customer or vendor. Those are right over here, so you don't have to go very far. I can also register payments or run some quick reports or push some reports to Excel right from here. So if I wanted to look at my income statement very quickly, and we'll talk about more around financial reports later, but if I just wanted to look at a quick snapshot of my income statement, this is going to be a concise view. I'd be able to come here, I can keep my last used filters in place, and then print it, preview it, or send it to Word, Excel, or PDF. so that you can see what I'm generating here. I'm just going to send this to PDF, and you see it very quickly generates that report, and now I'm looking at this right over here. Coming down the screen a little bit more, I have a section of scorecards. Some of these scorecards are dollar-based information, so sales this month or overdue sales invoices, etc. Notice too that they have some different color context. This can be set up by your administrator, or users can be empowered. This allows you to define ranges or thresholds, and when something exceeds a certain range or threshold, it can show up in that color. It's a visual cue, if you will, to draw your attention to the things that perhaps are not going as well as they should, or the things that are. So if I wanted to look at sales this month, I could click on this amount, this dollar amount, and it's going to take me to the list of sales. From there, if I wanted to look at an invoice, I'd click and I could then see this particular invoice. So all of that is just very easy to navigate to from your home screen. Very similarly, I've got these other scorecards that are more document counts. So sometimes they're called activity queues. How many quotes do I have? How many POs do I have? We also have the ability, if your device has camera support, whether it's a computer, tablet, or phone, to take a picture of an invoice or a quote request that might have come in and then process that through the system. These two, anytime you're looking at them, if you were to click on it, it would take you to the list of related documents from where you'd be able to search and process or take it to the next step. One of my favorite areas in Business Central is the report inbox. The report inbox is where I can schedule my own reports that I like to see every day. So instead of coming to the office and then running the aged AR, the aged AP, and perhaps my projected cash payments report, I can schedule them to run at predefined intervals. And I don't need IT's help for this. Really, all I had to do was come to my show queue, and then I created this particular list. I'm just going to go here and edit this one. And so you could see what I had to do. I pulled the aged accounts receivable report. I said I'd like the output in PDF. My other options were Word and Excel. And then I suggested that this report run every day as a recurring job at 8 o'clock. I could have had this run multiple times a day as well. And I have the ability to set my specific filters of choice so that those are respected every time the report runs. And then this report just fires and runs on the Business Central automation engine. So I come to the office every morning, and then I click on this report, and it can download that particular format, and now I have this handy. Another thing that this area can serve is if I'm looking to run a long-running report like an inventory valuation or an inventory adjustment type of report, I can set that to run for when I'm at lunch or at a customer meeting, and I don't have to have my computer turned on. It's just going to run on Business Central in the cloud, and the automation functionality runs, and it'll deliver this to your inbox, and then you'd be able to view this. And this is self-service, so you have yours, your other colleagues have their specific reports that they want, etc. So anybody who's a business user can have this report inbox feature. We also have the ability to have business charts in Business Central, courtesy of Power BI. So if you're not familiar with Power BI, we'll touch on that a little bit later today when we're talking about financials. But Power BI can be a great way to take data from Business Central and any other systems that you have, aggregate them into visual reports and charts and tabular reports and charts that can help you identify trends in business performance, and they can be fully interactive in this view. So Power BI has just been a great tool for many businesses that we serve and help, and we think even if you are looking at Business Central a few months or later down the road, you should certainly spend a little bit of time considering if Power BI can help you today. Coming down a little bit more, I have some other scorecards or activity queues around timesheets, which can be very helpful for services businesses. If you have workflows configured for PO approvals, invoice approvals, check approvals, you'll find those can also be shown over here. Your approval requests can also come to your email. And then favorite accounts, favorite customers, favorite vendors. Those are some of the things that can show up depending on your specific role. And then you choose the ones that you want to go ahead and have here. And depending on your role center, you may also see other charts like a quick trial balance. And you can easily navigate from period to period to see performance in prior periods. And what I want you to know is that anytime you're seeing data that is configured, I was going forward when I went to go backwards. So So anytime you're looking at data that is in a certain color, you'd be able to click and drill down and highlight that data and see more information about it. Before I leave the screen, let's talk about personalization. As you use Business Central, there may be certain things you decide you want more prominently displayed, and other things maybe that you don't want displayed at all. So you can move and add and remove those types of things from your home screen simply by going to Personalize. And this affects only your experience in Business Central, while it leaves other people's experience unchanged. So from settings, I would click on Personalize, and this gives me the ability to, perhaps we're not using the predictive capabilities of Business Central for sales and voice over to you. This is another artificial intelligence capability within BC, but let's assume for a second we're not using that, and we can hide that. Or you want to see your business assistance chart before the report inbox, so I can easily move that. Maybe you want to have you don't care to see your trial balance, or maybe you're not doing anything with timesheets or workflows, and you'd be able to come and move or hide those as well. When you're done, you can simply go back and just hit done, and those personalizations are now saved. The same type of personalization capability is available when you're looking at list views and card views. So when I click customers, I see a list of my customers, and I'm seeing some columns over here that maybe I want to rearrange or see or add different things. So I come back here and hit personalize. Let's assume for a second I want to move my credit limit before the country region code. And while I'm at it, maybe all my customers are US based, so I don't want to see them. But what I would certainly like is to add another field that shows me maybe the phone number. And so I could just drag and drop that over here. And I can also set a freeze pane. So as I scroll from left to right, if I want a few columns to always remain frozen, I could set that. So maybe I want just the name and the number to be the freeze pane, and then everything from beyond that to just kind of be able to scroll. So I did that right over here. So I hit done. Now this is saved. Similarly, I'm not going to repeat it, but just to show you a card view, when I look at something like a customer, I'm presented in a more detailed card view where I can see more fields, fewer fields. There's some quick entry capability as well to skip fields. I can personalize the way and the order in which different fields appear. Let's go back to my home screen. I talked about searching and finding a certain thing within menus like reports or resources list. But Business Central will also let you find transactions really quickly with the navigate function. So assume you wanted to quickly resend a copy of an invoice to a customer. As you're looking through the system, you found that there was an unpaid invoice, and you walked away. You just jotted down that number. The next time you want to get to that invoice again and just send that out, you'd be able to click navigate, and you can type in that invoice number. So I'm going to say PSINV 103191. That was the invoice I was looking at earlier. I want to get to that again. I search. It's going to find a lot of things matching it. I can see whether it's been paid or not, the transaction level at the GL, debits and credits, or just in the interest of what I want to do here, I click and this is going to pull up that invoice. See, this is for an Athens desk, a swivel chair, a whiteboard, and this was for Adatum Corporation. I could quickly come here and send this to this particular customer. So without leaving the screen, it's going to generate a quick email from inside of Business Central. I've got the ability to see that invoice attachment. This has my logo and all that information and all that. Now I can just send this on. I want to stay on the screen for a second and talk about two things. One, with Microsoft Word and Business Central, we can use Word to change this layout with my logo, with other columns, with colors and themes, so that my documents, my outputs, my invoices, my quotes, and so on, those documents would look and feel like the way I would want them to. Another thing that I don't have showing here is Business Central is capable of click to pay. And what I mean by click to pay is if you don't want to store your customer's credit card information on file, but you do want to give them the option to pay by credit card, on your invoice here or in the email that you have here to send out to the customer, it could show a quick link to Microsoft Pay or PayPal. And what that does is it gives them the ability to securely enter your credit card information for one-time payment of this particular invoice. You're transmitted the payment, the customer is making the payment securely, and then they go about their day. So just a quick example of how you can find documents, how you can send documents from Business Central. You could have also found documents using the customer's PO number or a vendor's invoice number, or if you're looking for a certain item, you could have also searched for an item by the number or the serial number and lot number if you're using those in your business. So let's switch gears a little bit. I promised that I would talk about some key areas where Business Central integrates deeply with Office 365 or with Office apps. I already talked a little bit about the Microsoft Word integration and how that can be used to change the look and feel of our output documents, our POs, our invoice templates, and so on. Let's talk about how Excel can come into play as well. So accountants frequently use Microsoft Excel to quickly put in a lot of different journal entries, which you may then want to bring into the system. You could also use Excel for importing data into Business Central. A lot of new records on the customer table, a bunch of new items to your item catalog, etc. Or you can also use that to edit information that's already in Business Central. That's the example I'll show you today. All three of the things I've defined so far, they're all doable with this functionality called Edit in Excel. But as I look through a list of customers, if I wanted to reassign some of these accounts from Peter, who's moved on to a different geography, and I want them to be reassigned to AH or Annette Hill, instead of going from customer to customer screen and then changing it from here to Annette, what I would do is I would use the Edit in Excel function. So these three, I'll demonstrate how it's quick to do those three in just a couple of clicks. Come to the screen and I click on Edit in Excel, and it's going to drop this file, export it. I'm going to open this file. I'm already connected to Microsoft Excel and or to Business Central from Microsoft Excel. It's got my user information, it's got that Business Central connection, and you can refresh this at any time as well. So when I refresh, it's just going to get the latest and greatest store of data. And now over here I could come down and I could say these three are going to be Annette Hill. So I could use my favorite Excel functions like copy and paste, and I could publish this. And when I publish, it's going to send this data back to Business Central. What's really neat too is if I save this file in the future, I can just open this file and update it right from here. I don't have to export the file from Business Central. So I can re-update all that information, I can refresh, I can reorganize my columns, are really helpful when you're working with journal entries, and then I could save that particular template. So this was the second way where Office 365 and Business Central just have a lot of integration or deep integration. And by the way, when I come back over here and I refresh my page, I should be able to see that change that I just made. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit refresh. And you see all these accounts are now assigned to Annette. The last, but I think the most interesting and unique integration point is the one that Business Central has with Outlook. And this works just as well with Outlook installed on your computer, or in my example here, I'm going to use Outlook in a web browser. Because I'm signed into Business Central with my Office 365 credentials, I am going to be able to launch Outlook without having to sign in again. So I'm just going to pull the app launcher, and now here I'm looking at Outlook. I have a couple of different examples to talk about. If you had approval workflows, you can get approval workflow notifications. It could be as they arrive, or you can have a daily digest of approvals. And so this is just notifying me that a previous request that Jenny had sent has been canceled. But a similar notification could have come if approval was requested. I could see the invoice, I'd be able to look at that PO and then approve, decline, or delegate to somebody else. Another scenario is if I receive a quote from a customer. And so here Stacy is requesting a quote for 3 soul chairs. With Outlook, I will have the ability to look into Business Central to foresee if we know whether Stacy is associated with one of our customers. And look at that, she is, as she works with A-Datum Corporation, and so this information got pulled up right away. So from here, if I wanted to, I could see their balance, I could see other aspects of our history with this customer. But in the interest of time, let's just jump straight into new sales quote. Look at that. Business Central is going to look at what I have in my line and then say, it looks like Stacy is asking for a soul guest chair. We have something in our inventory that matches what Stacy's asking for. And if I scroll to the right, you'll see that Business Central also was able to understand that Stacy wanted 3 chairs. So we now see that line here. And if I like what Business Central is suggesting, I can say yes and continue. But if Stacy had requested something that is either not properly spelled or Business Central wasn't able to resolve, or you simply don't want this artificial intelligence feature, you can say don't show this again, and it won't attempt to automatically populate this information. Now, with just a couple of clicks, I have a quote that's already set up for A Datum Corp, Stacy Jones. I have the item that Stacy requested and the quantity that she requested. If I wanted to, I could have assigned her a discount. And if there were pre-built special discounts or special pricing for A Datum Corp, Business Central would have applied them automatically. From right here, I could send this on to Stacy. So if I want to, I could just come here and say send by email. And what this will do is it's going to create a PDF attachment of what we just created the quote for. Attach that here. Look a lot like the invoice that I had before. Sending it out to Stacy with some quick information in the body for what we're sending. So then I hit send, and out it goes to Stacy. So without leaving the comfort of without leaving the comfort of Outlook, really, I was able to put through a quote. So people in the selling side of your business can do a lot right from Outlook. That's where they spend most of their time anyway. And that quote that we just sent out, if we were to go back to Business Central and we look at sales quotes, that is that last quote 1036 that we were just working on, the three chairs that we sent out. So you'll find that it's happening in real time. The last Business Central scenario that I want to talk about is when you get a vendor invoice. So if I received an invoice from one of my vendors and I want to quickly register that in the system. Now, Business Central has a lot of different workflows that you could use for such a scenario. Some of our customers like to have all incoming invoices go into a central incoming documents area where there could be some workflow to approve which ones get paid or not, which ones are maybe credit memos and which is an invoice, and then they can be created. There's also optical character recognition, or OCR functionality, that Business Central has that you could use. But here I'm going to show you a simple example of how I am going to just click to record this invoice in the system. So I click over here much like I did the last time, and I could say Business Central Contact Insights. And it should recognize that Tom is with Fabricam. And so here I'm seeing all of Fabricam's information like I'd seen the customer information in the previous example. Then I could say Purchase Invoice. And when I say Purchase Invoice, it's going to open up that screen. Let's give ourselves a little more real estate here since I'm going to type in some of this information. So as I'm looking at that, if I'd opened up the PDF document, what I would have seen is this is for about $4,240, and this is this particular invoice. This is for some chairs that we bought. Now maybe we're not treating this as an inventory purchase. Perhaps we treat this more as a office supplies purchase. So what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to just come down to the screen and say, instead of an item, this is actually going to be booked to a general ledger account. Oh, by the way, I should have probably populated this invoice number here. I'm going to type in office supplies. And so if I know my account number, I can do that, or I can just type in a part of it, and I think the amount was $4,240. And now all that is done. If I have other approvals that I want to send it out to, I can, or I can post this to our general ledger from here. And then I could be on, or just going to leave this here for somebody else to review. And then I move on with my day. So you see over here some very powerful scenarios of Office applications coming into play with Business Central and adding to the efficiency of your day-to-day activities. Let's pivot once more and talk about some financial reporting and management capabilities. So I'm back here in Business Central, and I want to start off by looking at our chart of accounts. A lot of people come from systems that have segmentation in their chart of accounts. So what I mean by that, for anybody who's not familiar with that term, you have your account number, hyphen, and then 3 to 5 digits maybe for a department, and then another hyphen, another 3 to 5 digits for projects or product codes or customer areas or so on. And that allows you to get your P&L or your income statement sliced and diced by those segments. In Business Central, as you see, I'm not showing any of that information in that format. One of the downsides of showing segments the way that I've explained and the way a lot of systems are doing it is if you had a department, if you had a segment for departments and you had a new department added, then you would have to create an entire set of new accounts for that combination of new department code with the general ledger account number in play. And over time, it just leads to a very unwieldy and very large and just exponentially growing chart of accounts. The way Business Central handles it allows us to keep our chart of accounts very streamlined. And so I'm going to show you that in just a second and explain the dimensions functionality, our Business Central way of handling segments. Before I do that, let's also stay on the screen and talk about a couple of things related to chart of accounts. One, as I look at any account card, you'll notice there's some good out-of-box categorization of accounts like balance sheet and income statement, and then whether it's an asset liability or an equity account for a balance sheet account or an income COGS or an expense account. And it also has user-defined subcategories that you can have which are really effective for ad hoc reporting. Going back to my screen here for the main chart of accounts list, as I look at anything, things that are in color, I can drill down. So if I wanted to see the balance at date for the accounts receivable account, I click here and I can see this information. And then I can, with a few more clicks, I could also look at the invoices or credit memos in play. But further to that, let's say I wanted to just look at this for a certain date range and see a net change for activity in August 2019. So I expand this and I say filter totals by, and I could set my date range. So I could say 08/01/19. And oh, by the way, I don't have to use slashes, so I could just say 08/31/19 over here. And so now this is filtered for that date range. And if I always want to remember this particular type of filter, I just say this is my August 2019 filter. And now this particular filter is saved for future reference. So now I can go back and now looking at this data as I want to. The last thing about chart of accounts before we talk dimensions is notice that I have my accounts nicely classified into groups with some formatting, some bold, some indentation. And let's examine how and what the benefit of this is. So instead of having to group all of these accounts into some kind of a formula every time I need it for a report or an ad hoc view, what I've done is created a user-defined grouping here. Assets marked as begin total, total assets marked as end total, with a little formula here that just says everything between this number and this number belongs to this particular category. And so now when I've done that, it's created an indentation. So if I want to look at just a combined view of all of my assets, balance at date, ad hoc report, pull this up. This is a very quick and easy way, and I can use this reference in financial reports as well. These, however, are the actual general ledger accounts against which transactions are recorded. So what I promised you earlier, let's go back to that, dimensions. So segments, I explained earlier the way they are, account number hyphen some segment hyphen some segment. That's how other systems do it. How does Business Central do it? We manage it in an area called dimensions, where you can have an unlimited number of dimensions, and these are 3 examples of dimensions. These are all user-defined, so you get to create the ones that work for your business. And then within a dimension, you can have an unlimited number of dimension values. And so I have a handful here. And I can also have a new dimension hierarchy. So if I wanted indentations like I had in my chart of accounts and then roll them up in my reports, I can do roll-ups as well. So in Business Central, if I wanted to create a new dimension or a new value within a dimension like department, I just come over here and add that. And that's all I have to do. I don't have to add more general ledger accounts or do any more configuration. There is also another ease of use functionality around dimensions in Business Central. You know, I've always preached that segments and dimensions are only as good as the amount of use they get in transactions. So if people are not using them, then they serve no value because you won't see any impact on reports. So to make sure that people are using them, we've created, or we have the ability to default dimensions by a table. So here, for example, if I wanted to say that any time a customer is used in a transaction, we must have that transaction booked to the sales department, which kind of makes sense. But there may also be some other situations where they may have to be a different value. So you could then set a rule around it. So this is the default. If you allow the user to change this at data entry time, it's just marked as mandatory. So there must be a value, but you're allowed to change it. or it can be locked in so that it's never changeable. All transactions that relate to customer will always be booked to sales. So the user doesn't have to remember to enter it. The user cannot change it either. So you can do this at a table level, or you can also do this record by record. I know folks who do it for individual customers, individual vendors. It's just like one more field you fill up when you're creating a new record on the customer table, vendor, item, chart of accounts, resources, etc. And then as you use them, they then start showing up in our financial reports and in other analysis reports here or in Power BI. Now let's pivot from this to financial reporting. Earlier in my presentation, I showed you a quick Excel or a quick PDF output of an income statement. Let's talk about a report writer and how we can also see interactive versions of financial reports. The financial report writer in Business Central is called Account Schedules. Account Schedules will let me see a list of all the different reports that I've created here for financials. There are some 4 that Microsoft's created right out of the box to give you a quick balance sheet, a quick statement of cash flows, a quick income statement or P&L, and a quick statement of retained earnings. But of course, you can have as many variations as you want of those. And then you can also create different column layouts. So it's a row and a column type of format where you mix and match rows and columns. Let's take a look at this income statement report. I'm going to just go into the report editor. It's reminding me that this is a Microsoft created one. Am I sure I want to make a change to it? I'm just going to say no. I'm not going to change it, and I don't want to make a copy of it. So now this is that row level format, and you can see it can reference individual general ledger accounts. It can also reference those grouped accounts that I talked about before. It can have formulas. You can have things like, is this row a net change? And if you're printing them out, bold, italics, underline, new page, and if it should show if there's no activity for that particular row for the periods that are selected, and so on. So you define all the different rows, and then you can also define the column layouts that you want to use. So here are some examples that we have in play. One's just a net change, so a single column where we're showing net change for the general ledger entries for whatever row we have, or consider this, actuals versus budgets. One column for actuals, one column for budgets, one column for calculating the variance between the actuals versus budgets. And again, I can have formulas for percentages and a whole lot more as well. We've also got other column layouts for departments or period -1, period -2, or rolling 12 months, and a whole lot more. But in the interest of time, let's just now examine how this interactive version looks when I run it. I could have printed this report, I could have sent this to Excel, but I'm going to look at this in a different way. So this interactive report now is going to let me drill down and click and examine what's happening in any of these periods. So here I'm looking at for the whole year of 2019 where I have demonstration data. I've got the single net change column here in this report. Now as I look at this, maybe I want to filter and just look at this report by the sales department. So I set this sales department filter. This is one way I can use dimensions. Or another dimension I could filter on, like area. Our customers typically use between 2 and 8 dimensions in your Business Central deployments, but you're certainly not limited to those. Come back and let's talk a little bit more about what we can do. So let's maybe talk about how we can switch from a year view to a month view. And maybe I just want to look at everything for the month of August 2019 where my demonstration dates are set. So August 1 to August 31st, 2019, and now I'm looking at that. And once I have that, I could have gone next period, previous period, so I don't have to type them every time. I can select and change my column layouts to actuals versus budgets. So now it's showing me my default budget. And if I have multiple budgets, I could select a different one as well. I could select another layout here, for instance, that is by departments. And now you're seeing all those dimensions, department dimension values that I have over here. So this is another way to see how your revenue, where it's coming from. And or I could see things like period. So this is one quick example of period, period -1, period -2. And at the end of all of this, I can, of course, send this to Excel or print this as well if I'd like to. So the report writer is very intuitive. We find it's easy to use, very powerful as well, and you can do a lot with it. One last thing that I want to leave you with is Power BI. Now, Power BI is a standalone offering from Microsoft, and it's just for $10 a user a month. It has a lot of things that you can do to add value in Business Central, from Power BI charts being part of your Business Central deployment, to Power BI charts that can be showing up here when you're looking at a list of customers or vendors, or just in Power BI itself, how you'd be able to look at Business Central data and derive a lot of information. So right from here, you can launch Power BI, and once you're here, you can see some of your key reports that you're running. I'm just going to pull up a sample report over here, and I have some bookmarked. And so if I'm pulling up a sample report, you'd be able to see some important information about how your business is doing. As you look at something, you could say, all right, show me more. I can drill down into it. I can see related reports and queries and inquiries and just so much more. And what's beautiful about Power BI is, like Business Central, this is a cloud-based application. It's in the cloud, so all you need is your browser and your Office 365 login, the same login that you use for your email, your Office apps, and now Business Central is also for Power BI. And you can get it on your phone or your tablet as well, and there are free apps that you can use to download that. And at DSWi, we've also created a lot of different packs for Power BI, a finance pack, an operations pack, and those can get you up and running with some very specific data that can help you make business decisions. So as you look at Power BI, just consider that even if you're not using Business Central, as I might have said earlier, just yet, there could be some real value to using Power BI to get insights on how your business is doing today, and DSWi could help you with that as well. So with that, I'm going to start wrapping up. There's obviously so much more that I could have talked about. The time doesn't allow us to cover today. And to give you some examples, I could have been talking about bills and materials for manufacturing, MRP. I could have been talking about project accounting and jobs management, inventory replenishment, selling through orders and shipping and purchasing and approvals, just fixed assets. The product is so deep in its capabilities. But what I'd like to do is just talk about how we can address some of those things, or where do we go from here. So as next steps, I invite you to schedule a one-on-one discussion with us about your requirements. The following slide is going to have our contact information that you can use to get in touch with us. We have a requirements questionnaire that we have created, and what that allows us to do is to help us uncover some of your most important needs and requirements, and then have a focused discussion around that in our call. Or on our call. We could also obviously tailor a demonstration once those requirements have been discussed and covered further. And so that tailored demo could use a small sample of your customers, your vendors, maybe some of your items, so that your team members can see Business Central with data that they can relate to. We also want to spend some time confirming what your budget looks like, and then recommend an implementation plan that could fit well within the constraints of that budget. So let's schedule that next demonstration or next call, and let's move this thing forward. Thank you for your time, and I invite you to contact Kyle Collins, who's our Director of Business Development here at DSWi. You can reach him at kylec@dswius.com, or call him at 713-818-3966. Kyle is based here in Houston, Texas, in the Central Time Zone, but he's available throughout the business day across Pacific to Eastern Time Zone. So we look forward to hearing from you. Once again, thank you for your time. Thank you for watching this recording, and we look forward to hearing from you. Take care.